Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to Franchise CXO Dialogue. This series involves learning from thought leaders at leading franchise organizations. Hope you all are keeping safe and healthy. My name is Ashita Marya. I'm the CEO of Franchise India. And, as you can see, we've got some ground rules for the attendees. If in case you wish to ask anything, please post your query under the Q&A section while the webinar is going on. Today, I'm very excited, to welcome our friend Prajodh Rajan. He's the co-founder and CEO who's being responsible for guiding the strategic direction and growth of EuroKids International. Under his leadership, currently with over 1,500 plus workforce, the company grew from 2 preschools in 2001 to 1,000 plus preschools across 350 cities in India, Nepal and Bangladesh, and added over 30 K-12, the higher secondary schools in India. He's a management graduate from the University of Madras. He enjoys an inevitable reputation in the industry for his efforts in early childhood education in the country, besides creating a fertile ecoland for education entrepreneurship. He's highly passionate and committed, that's the key for focus. He has an eye for detail. As for EuroKids, as you all know, that started with an aim to build a trusted Indian preschool brand and now has 1,000 plus preschools. In 2009, the company also ventured into K-12 education with Euro schools. EuroKids broadened its horizons in 2016. In addition to their family, they had Kangaroo Kids, a portfolio of over 100 preschools and 30 Billabong High International K-12s. This acquisition has helped EuroKids propel to a new heights. And, now EuroKids Daycare is a new feather in the group's cap. We also have Mr. Gaurav Maurya with us, who's an absolute authority on franchising. And, now this is going to be one of my favorite sessions because, I'm talking to Prajodh, who's like, which is like going back to early years when we started. And I still remember first time when we spoke to each other was in 2002. It's a great relationship of nearing about 2 decades, where we've achieved many milestones together. Prajodh, I feel one of the great achievements, I genuinely feel about EuroKids is that you've been able to attract very high quality private equity investors, like Gaja Capital and KKRs and the likes. So globally, private equity players, they play a very important role in scaling franchise businesses. And they are one of the sought opportunities, for consumer private equity players due to its nature of being asset light and being profitable and yet, immensely scalable. So wanted to understand, from you about that journey with them, because there are very few companies, in India particularly, who've been able to do this.
Thank you, Ashita. Good morning to all. It's good to see you and Gaurav after many days during this lockdown, I must say. At the outset, I must say that the relationship that EuroKids and I personally have had with Franchise India really dates back to the time that we started EuroKids preschools. I still remember, Ashita, you and Sachin and then Gaurav subsequently and we interacting. And I must firstly thank you and your team for your support in also building EuroKids preschools. I think whether it's your magazine, whether it was your portal, or whether it was your exhibition, I think we've had a good relationship with Franchise India for many, many years. And to think of it, it's been 2 decades.
Yes.
So clearly, I guess we've been in business since 2 decades, closer to 2 decades. 2001 is when we got started, right? It's been about 2 years. It's been 2 franchisees to now about 1,200 and odd franchisees across India. I guess this has been our journey so far. And we started with EuroKids. And now, of course, as you rightly said, we are in K-12 with Euro School. We now have a multi-brand approach. So thereby in the premium category, we have Kangaroo Kids and we also have Billabong High International Schools. We also have daycare as a product, which is in the form of EuroKids Daycare. So now EuroKids, the company, straddles what I call the early years care, the early years education and K-12. These are the three segments that we kind of cater to, and our aspiration is to cater to the mass premium, the premium, and eventually the super premium. That really will be our aspiration as well. So clearly, uh, uh, we we uh, we had a head start. I must say that from 2001, but more than anything, I guess it was always about staying true to why we got started. And sometimes that is when I reflect on it, Ashita, I really think that staying true to the promise of child first at all points in time, uh, without, and I'm saying that there's an absolute laser focus around that, right from the time that we started to where we are right now. So guys, I think really one of the salient features, if I was to think about, is about our real focus on being child first, whether it was in 2001 or whether it's in 2020. That has been the case, and we managed to thereby attract talent. And I talk about even franchise partners and talent who then resonate with our vision of child first at all points in time. Very conscious decision, Ashita, Gaurav, that we took, and I'm sure you know it, that EuroKids decided that we will use franchising as a means to distribute it, our service offering. And at the same time, we're very clear that we will have a owner operator model. So the franchise owner is also an operator for our business. And if you ask me, it served us really well that we chose both franchising as a means for distributing our service, and the second, our focus on the owner operator model. The early years education segment is a very high involvement segment, which requires the franchise owner to also operate it. And when we put that out, saying that that is our requirement, we also managed to attract the talent which was very deeply passionate about this segment more than anything else. And sometimes that's all that it takes, right? I'm saying a clear intent by a franchisor about his offering and his purpose, and attracting thereby good quality talent in the form of either workforce which directly works with you or your partners. And that's where really the magic happened for EuroKids and continues to do as well. This hopefully has thereby resonated with investors as well. As you look at the headroom for growth in this country, really, right? 165 million kids in the 0 to 6, 250 million kids in the 6 to 18, highly underserved in terms of market and offerings. When you look at that headroom for growth and we being highly underserved, I guess that's where capital also comes in to be able to strengthen some of these goals. So we've attracted some very high quality private equity partners. 2013, we had Gaja Capital as our partner. It lasted a fantastic 5 years. We had great run in those 5 years. And after which in 2019, we partnered along with one of the global best, KKR is now our partner in this venture. KKR, of course, has global expertise, and at one point in time used to own the chain of preschools in the United States called KinderCare. So clearly they have the knowledge where to be able to deal with the segment per se. And so I guess what I'm saying is that we stayed true to our purpose and intent. We attracted good talent in terms of our workforce, in terms of our franchise partners. The headroom for growth for this segment is immense, and we've not even scratched the surface. I sometimes tell the team, can we do 2,000? Can we do 3,000? Can we do 5,000 preschools in a country like India? And the answer is absolutely yes, Ashita. So I guess these are the factors in which I guess we've also attracted high quality capital to our organization there. So it's a combination of all of these.
Absolutely, and I should add one more. You've been a category creator, so I always feel that people who create category and build, so we understand that when this business you started in, and we had several discussions on that, how difficult it was, because most of the times either you get people who are essentially skilled but not having passion. So you get into this sort of combination who you really get. And in your case, you attracted a lot of passionate, especially women entrepreneurs who were owner operators, and they sometimes lacked skill. And I remember that you've been very focused on that. We can deal with this. We can deal with their skill up situation, and the kind of investment you've done in terms of bringing them to a level where they can also become very strong entrepreneurs. Because while they had passion to handle kids and they want to participate, but there was an uphill task for you to really bring them on the skill of being an entrepreneur, to handle business challenges and business performance challenges and a lot of that. And that is a very big task. And I know the first 7-8 years of your journey was really extremely hands-on, getting on to this entire thing and building this whole category in India. And this has, because of you, it's just not about what you've done for the EuroKids. EuroKids is obviously the market leader in this space, but you created a category which is now empowers maybe 50,000 women entrepreneurs in this country who run their own preschools or their entire thing. They're all inspired by the category you created. And that's, I think, is a much bigger impact in the business than actually just your own performance as a corporate. I think it is a very, very big impact.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for that. But you made the point around women entrepreneurs, and that clearly is the case with this category, right? I'm saying 98% of our franchise partners are women entrepreneurs who do this by choice more than anything else. And we've got teachers, professors, chartered accountants, I've got a lawyer. We've got varied kind of profiles of talent that EuroKids has managed to attract to its business. And if you ask me, I guess all of what we could achieve is because of all of us coming together to do this. So whether it's a category creation that we did, I guess it was this big team effort and staying true to our intent and purpose, which actually helped this cause.
Absolutely. And I always, in all my comments and seminars, I always mention about two people who really, and one is you, obviously, and second is Shahnaz Hussain, who really have created a real impact on women entrepreneurs in this country. The rest, everybody really talks about it. They just get the category, but they've really not gone and created. And your impact is much larger because you created a huge category itself. Today, if a woman thinks about starting a business, the first thing comes is early education, early childcare, and that category was missing in India. And so this would always stay. I mean, this is what we all have to see, what we leave behind. The purpose of life is just not about corporates making money, but any impact you leave behind. And that's something which always would stay with you, Prajodh, that you built this category and brought this category to India.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I completely second that, that you've created women entrepreneurs, and 98% women entrepreneur franchisees is like a whooping number. And, there's one more thing that I would like to add on to it is that I feel, for all the franchisors who are currently listening to this, is that one of the key advice for you guys is that, you should get proficient co-founders and a professional management team, because I've seen, the companies who have professional teams running the businesses are only able to explore, such investments, and they're being able to do justice, to that capital, which comes along with it. So I'll go back to, my next question from you. Nowadays, I really admire this gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek. I really listen to him a lot. So in his talks, he said, Starbucks was founded around the experience and the environment of their stores. It is about space, with comfortable chairs, lots of power outlets, tables, desks at which we could work, and the option to spend as much time as their stores as we wanted, without any pressure to buy anything, whether that's a coffee or a snack. But the coffee actually was incidental, so because the company culture is a concept that is easier to experience than to describe. So I really want to understand from you, what do you represent, and stand for? That's first. And second, how have you been able to develop, inculcate and maintain it down the line with your partners?
Okay. So Ashita, it's in our world, if you think about it, it's slightly different than Starbucks because we actually serve two masters. If you think about it, we have a customer who is a parent, and we have a consumer. So there is the consumer who gets the benefit of our services, who doesn't take the decision essentially, but the customer for us is the parent. So I kind of always think of ourselves as actually serving two masters, because there is the consumer, which is the young child, and then there is the customer, which is the parent, who basically pays for the service. So in that sense, our job is a little more difficult because there are two masters that we serve, both the customer and the consumer. I guess our thinking in that sense for the organization has been built like that, that there is a customer, which is the parent, and there is a consumer, which is a young child, which is the beneficiary of the services as well. Everything that we kind of thereby model and do in terms of experience is to be able to cater to these two, because it takes for understanding from a parent standpoint as to the good work that we do, because he doesn't experience it firsthand per se, and the young child can't even articulate that experience, even though he's had a wow experience back home. He or she basically feels happy about the fact, and the fact that every day morning, if they wake up with a smile wanting to go to preschool or our care centers, then clearly our job is well done, right? But beyond that, I don't think there is any articulation of good to excellent to wow. So clearly we need to be able to manage that communication with the parent as well, which is where we've kind of really doubled down. So all the work that we do, we need to also articulate it in the right manner to the parent, so that the parent understands why we do what we do there. And I guess it all, again, I kind of want to come back to our very simple thought of saying that there was child first at the center of everything that we did. What we started off with was a simple promise of ensuring that there will be developmentally appropriate practices, while many other, let's say, early childhood centers spoke about it. It was not mere lip service for us. We actually did so. So which is the reason why I guess we just followed through to its completion. So, and we then managed to communicate this well to our customer, which is our parent. So the experience that the child gotten, there was absolutely that was absolutely table stakes. We had to do the best there in terms of child first and developmentally appropriate. But we took that communication out and communicated in a manner where the parent or the customer could understand why we do what we do, even though the parent didn't experience it. That's one. I guess one of the joys of franchising truly, and I'm sure Gaurav, Ashita, you know it more than anything else, is this joy of, let's say, the network, right? And these best practices that are carried out by franchises across the country. And if you can capture that in the form of the best practices that franchisees also do, because they are the operators, and try and build that, I'm saying, try and take those knowledge very quickly as well, because I believe that it works both ways. It's not just us giving them the knowledge but some of the best practices that the franchisee does, if you can capture it and make it available for the entire network, and if you can do that in real quick as much as possible, I guess that's something that we've seen work for us. I still remember there was a time when a few years back, really, I saw one of our franchise partners do exceedingly well with conversions. So her walk-ins to conversion was excellent, as high as 90 and 95%. I was very intrigued to find out really what is happening with this franchise partner. And when we realized that her whole experience as to what she does during the kind of admissions counseling, there's a process there that we speak about in terms of admissions counseling. The parent comes in, and she said that 9 out of 10 of my parents come with the child to the center. And all that I do is, for the first 10 minutes, settle that child so very well in my preschool that child experiences. I'm saying that the parent can see, and she had a glass kind of a window there, and she used to place her child, which came with a mom on the other side, and ensured that the child is very well settled with all the toys, the puppets, and there were caregivers in that place taking care. And she said that the moment the parent felt that the child was settled right out there, I didn't have to do any more selling. She just heard me out and then made that. So now, as part of our practice, we've kind of said that whenever there is a protocol around when the child comes into with the parent, what are the things that we can do? So we learned something from the franchise network as well. I guess sometimes it's not just about us as a franchisor giving out the information to franchisees on best practices. I think it works both ways. And I guess, at least I can say that we've been benefited with that high quality engagements as well.
Absolutely right. And I think that this is also what we call the maturity of franchise networks. And after the maturity, I think the data really, or the business intelligence really comes from the franchisee. And all mature companies, global, all mature food brands like McDonald's, Burger King, 60% of their menu is actually now the menu which was invented by some of their franchisees, obviously with the approval from the parent and so on and so forth. So, and that happens because the business intelligence actually is built at the point of delivery. And unless and until you, as a companies, we become nimble to capture that business intelligence and do analytic on that. Not everything can change, because sometimes a lot of franchises, I would, Prajodh would know, a lot of them would be very experimental, very adventurous in they're trying to bring a lot of ideas which can make sometimes sense, sometimes not so much sense. But some ideas are very, very good, which can go into the entire network back. And I think very few companies understand that. This is about, yeah.
And sometimes, Gaurav, you said it right, I guess. And sometimes franchisees don't articulate this very well, and it is up to the franchisor to actually persevere to get out that right articulation of saying. Sometimes when you ask them, how did this work well, they can't articulate it as much, because for them it's natural, it's their way of doing business. But asking the right question sometimes brings this to the fore, and we've spent a lot of time and energy trying to figure out what questions to ask, if you may say, so that we can kind of get those answers from our partners, which we can then put into our network.
Absolutely. And I feel in your business about 30% is what we call personality and behavior. And personality and behavior are very difficult to sometimes capture and record, so how do you really take that and transform into a lot of other franchises? That can be very challenging. And businesses like education and healthcare are very responsible, so you have to be very sensitive on how you bring those changes and what changes would do, how they would impact, and so on and so forth. And it is going to be even more difficult in times to come because of what is happening around us. Our environments would become more and more secure and more structured. So Ashita, over to you.
Yeah. So in fact, another thing, just taking the discussion forward, this, this coming to my mind that, every once in a while, a new technology or a problem or a big idea turn into an innovation. So, during these times that we've gone through past 100, 110 days, what is it that it did for EuroKids, or EuroKids did for its consumers?
These times, Ashita, have been extraordinary, right? These times have been, these are times that you and I have never seen before. So clearly, there's a quote by Lenin, which I love the most during this time. And it says that there are decades when nothing happens, and then there are weeks when decades happen. If you ask me, especially for education as a sector, for sure, I can tell you that this has been the case. And for a very long time, I guess when you think about education in a very broad manner, early years, K-12, higher ed, things didn't change as much, right? We all were pretty much in a kind of a stable, similar kind of an environment per se. They were in dissemination of information used to be traditional in a classroom, in a fun room setting, with a teacher, a caregiver, an outdoor activity, and of course, doing the best in terms of developmentally appropriate practices. But clearly, this pandemic has upended all of those, and we've been clearly having to migrate from what I call from physical to virtual pretty much overnight. So when you think about our preschools and our schools, we pretty much migrated them overnight in the case of K-12, a little more measured in the case of pre-K, which is early years education. But clearly we had to make that big jump. So clearly, as we think about remote learning, so in a situation like this, what can you do is the question, right? You'll have to do the best that you can to be able to engage with the child, and in our view, to ensure uninterrupted learning. I guess that was really the mission for us. We have children ages from 2 years to 18 years of age across our pre-K and K-12, and our simple objective was to ensure uninterrupted learning. Now, that was only possible using remote engagement tools. So we decided thereby to migrate on to from physical to virtual using this remote engagement tools. It helped that we had already made some investments into platforms a little more earlier. So we had platform available, we had to populate it with content, and of course we needed mediums to be able to offer this. So we pretty much in the preschool, we now have a platform which is called Home Buddy. Buddy is our mascot there. So Buddy comes home has been the mantra for us. So in times like these, Buddy has come home in the form of Home Buddy there, which is a learning management platform, which also has live integration in the form of online teaching there, and has content which is populated in it, which can be used by the parent and the child. So clearly, with young children, the children can't be on their own. So this is an intervention that is also required with parents as well. So the parent and the child go through this. So during times like this, I thought remote learning engagement is the only way to ensure uninterrupted learning. And we've used technology tools to be able to make this possible. In the K-12, especially, I can say for sure in middle school and senior school, it's been very successful. In primary and pre-primary, we of course have a bunch of learnings that we are bringing on as to what really works, what doesn't, how much is the input in terms of time for the day per se. For example, WHO has stipulated a 1 hour of screen time. And in our own way, we said that children anyway consume a lot of screen time in the form of television, in the form of games and the rest. Can we make those screen time constructive so that learning can take place? So that's really what we did. And we made this possible through our technology platform, and which is what is on offer. Did we have this, Ashita? The answer is no. We really pretty much worked during this pandemic to put this together so that we could launch it in June. So June 8th is when we actually launched the product for at home.
That's very interesting. So yeah, so as I said, something which happens or an experience or work led you to an innovation, but I think that's for good that, kids can learn sitting at home. I think that's something which is there. And since you mentioned the buddy, I love this transformation from a fatty buddy to a linear and a healthy buddy. So how did that idea come to your mind? You wanted to encourage kids to be more healthy like him?
I guess, 10 years into our logo, EuroKids, if you remember, we had the yellow and the red logo with the bunny there. And we realized that children of 2001, 2002 to the kids in 2008 and 9 and 10 were very different. Their own exposure levels are very different and their needs were very different. So we said that even our brand needs to then keep up to those times and transform itself. So to that extent, we kept it current to today's times. Yes, you have a much a leaner, lighter buddy as well, and a more sporty one at that too. But it's been very well received, Ashita, for the new look of the buddy. It's been around now since last 6 years.
Yes, and it's a better representation. And I think looking at you, since 2002 to today, I think you're also following the same thing. So yes, it does get it. So this is another thing that people say that particularly I was reading this book by Jack Welch, and he very categorically said that strategy is a very simple resource allocation. When you strip away all the noise, and that's what it practically comes down to. It means making clear-cut choices about how to compete. You cannot be everything to everybody, no matter what size of your business is, no matter how how deep your pockets are. So what strategies and choices have really helped you reach where you are today, and what you look for yourself in future?
So, Ashita, I guess there are a couple of things that come to my mind right now about the choices that we made as well. First was the choice of using franchising as a medium to distribute EuroKids the service. I thought that was a very important one, and I must table that because had we made a different choice, because there are different ways to distribute EuroKids, right? Because our ambition was clearly to be a pan-India provider of this high-quality pre-K service, and matching that ambition was a distribution model. And that distribution model, I think one large success factor, if you were to ask me, was staying true to our distribution model. Many I've heard many voices saying, oh, shouldn't it be the more company-owned, company-operated formats and so on and so forth. If you ask me, I shut off all of that noise and stayed true to our whole idea of saying that I truly believe that the kids or the pre-K model is a very hyper-local business, which I still call it a 2-kilometer radius business, and student recruitment and teacher recruitment takes place locally. And it works well when we partner along with a franchise partner who has great understanding of that geography. And if we support them with our brand, our knowledge where, and help him not only set up, but also operate it, that's the right combination to make. I guess we stuck true to that model and did not deviate from it, Ashita. You've seen us at work. We've always stuck to franchising as the medium of our distribution for EuroKids. That's one. Second, we were very clear that this is ultimately our vision for EuroKids preschools was that to be a neighborhood preschool. Truly speaking, I wanted every neighborhood to have a EuroKids preschool so that kids could actually go walk to preschool per se. So we created it as neighborhood concepts there. So not very large formats per se, but smaller formats which can be in every neighborhood, and every neighborhood could have a concept like this. That's really what we stuck on to, and we stayed true to that. The third is the owner-operator model, and I must call that out. I know I spoke about it earlier as well. I thought we stuck true to that, which is the reason why a majority of our franchisees are actually single unit franchises, because I guess it's an owner-operator model. Of course, people who have larger wherewithal can take in more, but only within that given geography. We wouldn't give one within Bangalore to Mumbai to other places. There is the owner-operator model. So these were the three very critical choices that we made, and truth be said, we just stuck on to that more than anything else. Apart from, of course, the choice of our product, which was saying child first at all points in time. I think these three factors come to my mind as we think about what we stuck on. It's been 2 decades, and we still stuck on to those promises because we truly believed in it, and that's how we kind of distributed this model.
I'm sure. I think that's what we've also realized, that fundamentally companies which run on the franchisee-owned, franchisee-operated, and especially with operators rather than just an investor coming in business, especially micro businesses, there are two things which are very important. One is efficiency, and I think most of the businesses, and I don't want to name on the forum, there was a company which got listed in preschool, and they were running equity businesses, and they obviously showed a different perspective to investors, but not able to survive because efficiency and performance at the unit to unit was absolutely missing. And this is a responsible business. This needs a lot of operator focus on an hourly basis and daily basis to bring that kind of efficiency. And the whole business model and the financial or microeconomics of this business really works on that piece, that you are able to bring that businesses. So that way, I think it is one. And second, I think what you've also achieved, which I should really mention, is that when you have a business of that scale and you roll out like hundreds of schools on a yearly basis and so on and so forth, your control on getting the capex out and getting efficiency of rollouts and all that pieces, which takes a lot of energy and actually a scientific approach. It looks very easy. A lot of people I quote with me, why should I take a franchise and why should I not start my own thing? I say, I mean, you don't want to do the same mistakes, which the learnings have come in over the years. The economy of scale today, economy of scale itself is one of the areas which I think is so important when people partner with you, what benefit they get in running and getting up and running in the school rather than starting their own business. I think that also, and I personally feel this is a big opportunity ahead of you. I mean, what has happened, while it is a standstill, a little diversity, but the opportunity for you, and I'm sure your thinking mind is talking about how do you convert a lot of independent operators who probably would now feel very insecure staying independent, and they would look at being more comfortable working with the players like you. And this is also one of the reasons why, because when people look at brands today, they look at two very strong things. One, warmth, and warmth comes from the regional, the local knowledge, the local capability, and especially in schools, you are much comfortable because you are giving to a lady which is in your neighborhood, and she will treat your kid like as a family member, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of warmth required in this business. Second, they also want to see the competence, and competence comes with brands. So how can you marry these two things? And that's where I feel that even independent preschools would start converting, especially the good ones, start converting into EuroKids.
There's a term for that in franchising, right? You call it conversion franchise, conversion franchising. Right? Gaurav, just before that, I just wanted to kind of also table to the question that Ashita asked around what we thought were some of our success factors and what we stuck true to. I guess right from the start, we were very clear that we will also be a high-touch franchising system. I think that was by choice, because I guess franchisors make as choice, right? I'm saying you can be low touch with only name lending, or you can be high touch. And we realized that in our category, it serves us well only if we can be a high touch franchising system. So clearly that was also a choice that we made, and we stuck to that. So you will see us very involved as in the franchising system per se there, where we not only help to set up but also to operate it as well. So whether it is the kits that we supply to every child, whether it is the trainings that are required, whether it's the background verification of our teaching staff per se, we are a very high-touch franchising system at work. On conversion franchise, I guess in times like this, I guess one theme that is what I hear, and I can see that also playing out, is the strong will get stronger. Absolutely. And I guess I definitely see that playing out, Gaurav, where the strong will get stronger, and you will thereby see many independent operators then seeing the merit of aligning with a franchising system rather than operating on their own. And consumers themselves will behave, or customers themselves will behave very differently, because there is a trust that they can put on to a system rather than an independent operations. And especially in today's time, when health, safety, and hygiene will be a topmost priority for many customers per se. So whether it is any kind of a service offering, I think they'll have to build this health, hygiene, and safety as an important function within that. So I guess clearly in the times to come, for sure, Gaurav, I can see conversion franchising taking place, and for the right reasons more than anything else. I guess we're seeing some very initial burst of that. I was just sharing with Ashita some time back that especially April and May were low activity months, but from June onwards, we've seen a surge of interest come by. And within that surge of interest, we've also seen independent operators come by to ask us about the proposition. So clearly, I guess the strong will become stronger.
Absolutely. And I think the opportunity would be at two levels. One, obviously, the independent ones would be converting with you, and I think that would grow. We are seeing a lot of inquiries on that front, because we feel that people are underperforming, and a lot of players, they don't know, they struggle between 20, 25 kids, 30 kids, and because they don't have a credible brand, they don't have the tools and the technology now and everything else, so they're not able to get there. So it's a responsibility. Even if you have 25 kids, you continue to run school without any profitability. But if you have right infrastructure, you have right intent, sometimes shifting that can give a dollar plus effect. And that, I think, itself is an opportunity. And that's what I think would happen now. It's a natural flow. Another thing which I've seen, I don't know, it is happening, and this question to you, we're seeing some smart franchisees. The smart franchisees who operated and they've made sense out of their businesses, they are the one who would be driving this consolidation. So if I was in Koramangala and I was doing very well, and this time, now I don't know about the data, but we did some study long time back in Koramangala, there were 78 preschools, right? The top performing was obviously EuroKids and obviously branded ones. And the rest were like a micro operators, good infrastructure. Some people have their own houses, good infrastructure, but not able to get more than 30 kids, 35 kids, 40 kids. So if you have a smart franchisees, they would find opportunities in their neighborhood. And they go and convert and reach out to them, because they already built their infrastructure, they have the reach, they have the right kind of teachers, the capabilities and other things around them. And economies scale of acquisition, because the business model revolves around how does acquisition cost. If you have 3 schools around in your neighborhood, you can do much better cost structuring and so on. So that also, I think, would happen. So I don't know what is happening at your end.
Gaurav, I guess it is smart thinking by franchisees, and especially, like you said, some of the very high quality smart franchise partners will think about these possibilities. It's slightly early right now, at least in my view, because all of them are currently still settling with their own business right now, because there are challenges which are many in this period right now. But as soon as this initial period of settling goes in, because June is when the new academic year started, they're kind of settling with it per se. I guess in few weeks and months from now, we'll see some of these smart, high-performing franchisees think the way that you think. But it is absolutely logical and smart thinking to do so, because you then kind of can get domination in that local marketplace, because that's what you want, right? You want within your local marketplace to be a dominant brand, and if you can have multi-units within that itself, it does work.
Yeah, and this is how global franchising reflects in the 5 recessions people have seen from 1960s to now. You will see that good franchisees have always consolidated their position, and that's why you see in US somebody runs 100 Burger King, runs 50 7-Elevens and likes of them. These all were opportunist points where they saw something not working that well, and they were great operators and they acquired the businesses and the entire thing. And that's how these multi-unit franchises in the US is very, very big opportunity. They build their own smaller empires in their own regions and so on and so forth. And we will see, especially in India, we see in franchising that happening quite a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting take. So, taking this forward, would want to just understand, Prajodh, since having said that, you've got, franchisee owned and operated centers, and you've got about 1,000 plus of them. How do you manage relationship with all of them? You also have an entrepreneur mindset. You also have an entrepreneur mindset, but sometimes things go well in terms of understanding each other on every aspect, but sometimes it gets into a friction. So how do you manage those relationships? And I understand that some of your relationships are really old in the system. So how have you been able to manage this?
Ashita, me and my team have always been guided by the principle that we'll be successful only if our franchisees are successful first. And our entire model has been built on that premise there. Whether it is the commercial terms that we built in to, I'm saying it's not just lip service, but it should also reflect into something actionable, right? And the first actionable starts with the business model and the commercial terms that we have with our franchise. So right from the fact that there is only one, I'm saying we don't cut deals. There is only one kind of a model. There might be different models around it, but in a given marketplace, that's it. So I think we've kept transparency and ethical practices right out there at all points in time. So if you ask me, with EuroKids, and you would have seen that there's no deal making per se there. There is a certain model. That is the model that you kind of take, you kind of imbibe it, and then we'll help support it. So I guess we've been very transparent upfront. We like the fact that we're we think in a very ethical manner, and the fact that are at the heart of it, we truly believe that only if our franchisees are successful will we be successful. So I guess that's the way that the thinking has been modeled. Now, obviously, there are times when franchisees, because of and sometimes we make wrong choices. I must admit it, early on we did, whether it was the location per se, and sometimes even with the partner, we may have believed upon a certain kind of a premise when we got started, but over a period in time, those priorities change for them, and mostly for them. So I guess we made our fair share of mistakes and thereby understanding as well, and we try and build that into on a year-on-year basis. But at the heart of it, if we always believe that if we can act in a fair, transparent, and an ethical manner, keeping their interest in mind, I guess solutions are found for all problems. You know that EuroKids actually writes short-term contracts. We do only 3-year contracts with our franchisees. We don't do 10 years and 15 years. And that's by choice, because every 3 years, we want to have that conversation with the franchisee saying, does this work for you? Is this making sense for you? Are you getting the joy in this business? And then do a renewal with it. And a lot of people have asked me, Prajodh, why don't you do 5 years and 10 years contracts? Makes it simple. I've actually chosen against it to actually do 3-year contracts. And I don't think many in the industry actually do a 3-year contracts, because I really thought that it is valuable, because you need to do that discussion. It's nothing for a 5-year and a 10-year period. It keeps both ends on its toes. We both have a renewed commitment then thereby. I guess these are factors, and we've got franchisees in our network, maybe more than 50-60% of them, which have renewed with us 4 times and 5 times over per se. So that's 12 years and 15 years with us. So clearly, I can call out names of people who I have appointed as franchise partners way back in 2002 and 2003, who still are partners with us.
And another area which is always that, because we at Franchise India worked with, at one point in time, about 100 different brands, which obviously courtesy came because of you, because they saw you successful and everybody became a franchisor in the category, which is also, we both benefited from that, because, sometime our show should look like a preschool, a franchise show, so almost everybody trying to be, and they were trying to sweeten their deals by saying that, oh, I don't charge anything and I don't charge a royalty. I don't do anything. I give everything free. This is my service. I want to do it for life. So all those kind of people have gone, and but what I really loved about EuroKid, and this is my genuine opinion, they were always large company, but very nimble. I don't want to mention another group, which was also large enough, but they always sounded very corporate to their partners. They were never so human element. And I think, and I've seen, even when the company was very large, we saw Prajodh coming himself and attending his prospects, talking to everybody, being available. And I think that goes a long, long way. This is a relationship business. The rest, everything it's maths. And maths, physics, and other things we can handle, right? Because the chemistry, I call it, the chemistry is the relationship. And the relationship comes with very human values. And that, I think, EuroKids had as a foundation of the company. And that remained with them. And that, I think, is much larger in terms of creating this relationship. And a lot of other people who had maybe at one point in time bigger financial muscle or investment, and some people who came with becoming corporates in education and so on and so forth, they were all not able to manage it purely because they had no sensitivity on what was going on with the franchisee relationship.
All that I can say, Gaurav, is we just stayed true to who we were. And I truly hope that we can continue to do so as well as we push for newer growth per se. So we've stayed true to our purpose and our promise.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So I think the chemistry comes prior to physics and maths. So yeah, that's a good takeaway. So other than this, Prajodh, I understand that you're an avid reader. So what are you reading nowadays?
So I kind of so I've been fortunate to have parents who inculcated reading as a habit in me. For you can see my bookshelf at the back there.
Yes.
So I kind of read from a very young age. I kind of what I don't read is fiction. So I read only non-fiction there, and I read a variety of topics really, Ashita. So interestingly, so a variety of books. So I have no one interest. So I can kind of read across leadership, across autobiographies. I can read topics right now. So right now, the book that I'm just reading, which I'm just getting to a close, is a book called Has China Won by Kishore Mahubani. That's the book. It's very topical. So
And you don't want to answer right now, right?
Yes. I'll get you to read it and for the others to read it probably, but I just said it out there. Do read that book. It's called Has China Won?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll add that into my readers list for now. So is your son also following the steps of being a reader?
He used to is what I can say, but I don't think kids right now consume I guess knowledge in different formats, and I guess we as parents should be okay with that, because no longer it's probably, I still love the thing about the book, so it's physical book for me. I love the paper feel per se. I still can't do digital devices, but I guess kids are very different right now. My son is now 14. He consumes it probably on his phone and other things, but I know that he's not as much an avid reader as I am, but he consumes his knowledge in different formats. So videos, I guess today's generation consumes that as much, right? And it's more bite-sized information more than anything else that they can do. But that's maybe where the future is headed.
And absolutely, and we should be happy to accept that future, because we cannot restrict it. This is natural for them, and this is what they would consume going forward in their lives and so on. So
yeah. In fact, I remember that moment. I don't know whether you remember it or not, but when I had my girls to the age that they wanted to go to a preschool, I called you that, which preschool is good. And see my audacity, I'm calling EuroKids and asking. So I still remember you told me that, just take her to a school, and whatever school that she likes, just, put her into that. So yeah, there's one advice that, I've always followed with both of my girls for, even choosing a K-12 or a preschool for them. So yeah, it's been a very good advice that I followed till date. So it was wonderful, Prajodh. I mean, I completely loved it. And I think relived, last 18 years during this 1 year. I can't really put my, the thing that I felt during this in words, but I truly enjoyed it. And I'm really happy to see that you're true to what you say. You've made something happen. I understand what it takes to being a category leader. I'm not boosting myself, but Gaurav is one of them who created an industry, and I've been a part of the journey. So I know it's difficult, and you've truly made it possible in your own category with being a leader till today. It's not easy to run the fastest always, but I think you've been very well able to do that, and I'm really proud of that. And I have cherished all my association with you. You being on the back page for all these years and supported the industry in the true manner. I think that's really, really great of you. And so that's really nice, having you here. And I loved it. I'm sure our attendees also got what they wanted. There are a few queries that, we would answer that. I'm sure most of the questions I've taken up during my discussion, but if not, we'll answer you individually. And if required, Prajodh, I'll send you a couple of them to, answer. And we'll take you for that. And thank you so much for your time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you so much for it. And for visitors, there are a few links that you can follow. to get some more information about us. And you can even view or you can share this particular video with all your colleagues and your friends. We will be posting a YouTube link as well on these postings.
Thank you, Ashita. Thank you, Gaurav. All that I can say that, even I also truly cherish our relationship with Franchise India. Like I said, it always takes two to tango, and you guys have also been great supporters and support for EuroKids as well. So thank you for that relationship too.
Thank you, Prajodh. It's always great talking to you. It's a learning, and I particularly enjoyed the relationship personally, because I feel that it's also a foundation for us. We always, as consulting firms, as suppliers, always are known for what good has happened in the industry, and you are one of the top goods we will always cherish in franchising. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Ashita. Thanks all.
Thank you for your time. Yes.